It does not matter how much you outsmart your opponents if you can't land any shots. I can give you all the knowledge of Boaster, but if you can't aim, you won't reach the higher ranks. So how do you fix your terrible aim to rank up faster? I struggle with this the same way you are, the feeling of hopelessness and being hard stuck, but I figured it out. Now I hit clips like this. I've narrowed down my learnings of aim to 11 tips. From my journey reaching 300 plus RR in Immortal 3 with around 400 hours on the game, and I have saved the best tip for last. Let's start with the basics. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but what you need to understand is that this is your foundation. There's a reason why everyone says the same things in videos, because it's important. All your skill builds upon this. Without a strong foundation, you won't go anywhere. With that said, the first reason is bad mouse control. Mouse control or raw aim is your ability to control your mouse and aim. If you can't hit a headshot on a target standing still, it's all pointless. If you're somewhere between iron and gold, improving your mouse control will save you. In these ranks there isn't a whole lot of strategic play, so hitting your shots is crucial. As you climb the ranks, this becomes less important. Improving your raw aim by 10% won't win you 10% more fights in the higher ranks, because people use utility and strategy more to win fights. Number 2, bad movement. There's two components to a fight: making the enemy an easy target to hit and making yourself a hard target to hit. So you need to master strafe bursting, but here's the important thing: don't do this. You need to be implementing longer strafes to make yourself a harder target to hit. Some of you might have seen the pop and swing.
Where's the pop and swing? I want to see it.
There's a reason why it works well. It's because people hold angles too tight and can't do large flicks and or track. So by implementing longer strafes, you're kind of doing small pop and swings. Be careful though. This takes some practice finding a good balance between too long strafes and too short. My advice on what worked for me was practicing this in DMs. Number 3, you don't warm up. Come on. If you want consistent aim, you need to warm up consistently. Find a warm-up that you enjoy and that warms up your different types of aim. Your warm-up needs to cover flicking, micro and macro, gun control, tracking, and doing this while moving. Do not make this mistake. Don't be lazy with your warm-ups. Number 4, tracking. This is so underrated. Everyone talks about grid shot and flicks, but Valorant is all about precision and being smooth. Therefore, tracking is really important. It helps you improve shaky and imprecise aim, helps you clear corners, and most important of all, tracking helps you stay on target while strafing and moving, which is a really big part of aiming, movement. Number 5, bad gun control. You can have the world's best raw aim and movement, but if you can't control your gun, it does not matter. Don't needlessly spray. Valorant is a precision-based game. Spraying is not precise. There's a time and place for spraying, and that is close range. Otherwise, stick to bursting and tapping. By spraying, and God forbid you crouch, you commit to a fight. As soon as you start spraying, you remove the ability to move, making you an easy target to one tap. If you have to, unbind crouch and make it a habit to aim for the head and stay agile. Number 6, too high sense. The most important part of aiming in Valorant is hitting heads. One taps, which takes precision, not speed. You don't need high sense, it makes things more difficult. Most pros have an EDPI somewhere between this range. There's not a perfect sense I can give you. The closest thing to a perfect sense you can find is one that fits you. My advice to finding your own perfect sense is to play the lowest possible sensitivity you're comfortable on. Here's a good test to try out. Hop in practice range, stand next to this wall, now try to shoot some heads. Then try tracking ahead. If you can't do this, then your sense is too high. Number 7, not resetting aim. Because lower sensitivities are better in Valorant in general, you will be forced to do large mouse movements, which sometimes leaves your mouse in an uncomfortable position. If you stretch your wrist far to the right or left, you lose range of motion and control. Thus, after you clear an angle or do a large flick, make sure to reset your aim and mouse to a neutral position. This will give you the best possible odds of winning a fight when the time comes. Number 8. Not being calm. In Valorant, it's not the fastest player that wins the fight, it's the most precise player that wins. It doesn't matter if you're super fast to flicking to someone's head if you're 1 pixel away from the head. A miss is a miss. Therefore, taking your time in lining up the shot is a much more consistent approach. Don't rush your shots. Follow this mental framework. See enemy, aim, stop and shoot. Don't do it the other way around. Don't see enemy, stop and shoot, and then aim. Don't panic and shoot before aiming. Best way to practice this is running some DMs. Number 9. Not being focused. In theory, everyone in a game should be basically equally skilled. But everyone won't be playing at their 100% every game. If you can get close to your own 100%, you'll already have a big advantage, especially if your enemies are playing on autopilot and at 70% of their skill. So don't play with music, don't sit in a Discord with 20 people, don't watch a stream, don't pull up TikTok as soon as you die. I know it might be a bit boring sometimes, but real talk, you need to learn to focus to perform in Valorant. If your head is somewhere else, then you won't be able to plan the next play to win. If you're holding an angle and you're not focused, you'll react too late to have a chance at winning the fight. Number 10. Pre-aiming. This is a bit more advanced, so if you don't have the fundamentals down, I'd advise you to wait working on this. Pre-aiming is when you line up a shot before peeking. To do this, you need some basic game sense. You need to have experience and know which angles are common. The reason why pre-aiming is so strong is because it removes aiming from the equation. What's the most consistent way to get kills? It's when you don't have to aim. It might be hard to accept, but we're humans and our aim will be somewhat inconsistent no matter what. So relying on aim is an inconsistent playstyle and strategy. Thus, if you think someone's holding an angle, take your time and pre-aim them and collect that free kill. Number 11. You take hard fights. Now to the most important reason out of them all. Before covering this, I'm also going to give you a bonus tip number 12 after this, teaching you a secret to crosshair placement. Alright, taking hard fights. Even if you do all 10 tips before this, it won't matter if you take bad fights. If you take wrong fights, none of that will matter if you pick 5 people without any utility. A fight usually is a 50-50, meaning you should win 1v1s 50% of the time. But if they peek with a flash and you have nothing, it'll become an 80-20 fight, which you want to avoid. Therefore, the key to winning more 1v1s is using utility and strategy. Never engage in a fight without an advantage. Sometimes you have to, but it's not that often. Be creative and find ways to gain an advantage. Use off angles, peek with your teammate, peek off of your teammate. Use utility, be unpredictable. And to the bonus tip, crosshair placement. Let me just go into the basics real quick and then I'm going to explain something that you're doing wrong. Crosshair placement is when you keep your crosshair at head height and where you think enemies will be, allowing you to aim without aiming. Think of it like this, if you're having to flick, you're doing something wrong. Kills should be small adjustments to the head. The secret to perfect crosshair placement is holding angles wider than you might think. Think of it like this, when playing a sport like tennis, professionals position themselves somewhere in the middle most of the time, giving them the best chance of reacting no matter what happens. If you were to play in a corner, it would be really hard to cover the other corner, naturally. If we take this concept into Valorant, it means you want to have a wider crosshair placement, allowing you to make consistent small adjustments no matter what the enemies do. These concepts are easy to understand but hard to implement. Take your time, work on one thing at a time, and good luck climbing. Take care.